You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
Before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you a little bit about our current sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. As you well know, if you've been following This is Oklahoma, they've been a huge part of this podcast. So this podcast is presented by the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, telling Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at OklahomaHOF. Also sponsoring the podcast, RCB Bank. The home market is booming and RCB Bank is here for you. If you're in the market to buy a home, a mortgage pre-qualification will make the process much easier. Talk to one of our mortgage professionals today. RCB Bank, that's my bank. With approved credit, terms and restrictions apply. Member FDIC, equal housing lender, RCB Bank. NMLS 798151. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode up in Tulsa today at the Mayo Hotel with John Snyder to talk about history, talk about how amazing this place is. I really appreciate you having me. I'm excited to stay here and check it out because there obviously is a lot of stuff that goes on here, a lot of stuff that, history that's happened here, and I know we're not going to get to all of it today. But John, thanks for taking time out of your day, especially on a weekend, to kind of sit and tell some stories. Before we dive into the hotel stuff, though, tell us a little bit about you. What's kind of your Oklahoma story?
Well, I moved up here in Oklahoma from Houston about 25 years ago. Mm-hmm. I was with Manhattan Construction Company, and they sent me up here to take over the Oklahoma operation, and I ended up fell in love with Oklahoma. Raised my 3 daughters here. I have 10 grandkids, actually 9.5, and we all live about 1.5 miles apart. Awesome. In Tulsa. So everybody's a real tight-knit family, and we see each other every day, pretty much. But this is the best kept secret in America. Mm-hmm. I tell people all the time, we don't have the mountains and we don't have the ocean. But what we have, you don't have to wait in line for. And,
very true.
And the lakes, they're unbelievable. Mm-hmm. So it's, and there's more and more people coming here. I have a story. So I kind of engage with every new person that I meet, because I can kind of tell if they're from here and they're not. So there was an AT&T repairman working on my house that I just sold to my youngest daughter and her husband. And he was a little shy. And so I said, hey, man, he had a dip in his mouth. I said, what are you dipping? He goes, Copenhagen long cut. I said, yeah, no kidding, man, good. And I said, where are you from? He said, Sacramento, California. And I go, how'd you end up in Tulsa? He said, I'm leaving California like everybody else is, Yeah. And he goes, I'm renting a house twice as big. I think he's got 4 kids, 5 kids, and twice as big for half of the money. Yeah. And he gets to see his kids every day. He goes to their sports and that kind of stuff. And that's what, Tulsa's that way. Oklahoma City, Stillwater. It's all about family here. And it's getting better. I met another lady. My dog got out the other day, and he's got my phone number. That's how I meet a lot of people. Damn dog gets out all the time. But anyway, so the lady I'm about almost 64. She's about my age, and so I was talking to her, and she just bought a house, and her daughter just bought a house. And I said, where are y'all from? And she goes, San Francisco. I said, wow. I said, how'd you end up in Tulsa? Kind of like I always do. And she said, we hired, my family has a big business, a winery and all this kind of stuff, and we hired a relocation expert, and they told us we should move to Tulsa.
Wow.
And I was like, dang, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So it's happening.
It's happening. Slow,
but it's slow everywhere in the country. Things are, how it is. And I don't think it's going to get much better anytime soon. But we're kind of in this little ecosphere here where people are really friendly. There's not a lot of traffic. Things are a little slower, and there's a lot to do here.
There's a lot to do.
And I talk to people that are from Oklahoma, and I ask them, "You ever been to Pawhuska?" No, I've never been to Pawhuska. And I go, how long have you lived here? My whole life. I said, man, you need to get up to Pawhuska. Yeah. They're filming the movie, The Killers of the Flower Moon. Robert De Niro, Leonardo DiCaprio. They're all here in Tulsa hanging out, and they're up there, and they have dirt on the streets and all that kind of stuff. And So yeah, I mean, I'm pushing Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Pushing Grand Lake real big right now. I mean, Shangri-La is so far over the top. I mean, the new activity center they just built there, open to the public, pickleball, tennis, state of the art, games for kids and stuff like that. It is like you drive in there and you look at it, it's just like this panoramic view of the golf course and everything and the lake, and you're like, man, this is Oklahoma. It's like Disney World.
Yeah.
And then the gathering place too. I mean, that's like free Disney World to everybody. I mean that.
Yeah.
And they got the new dam coming and the whitewater rafting thing. So there's a lot of good stuff going on.
Mm-hmm. So back to Houston, growing up, what gets you into construction growing up?
So I started out, grew up in San Antonio, and then my dad became the operations director at the National War College in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. And so we moved from San Antonio to D.C., and that was rough, man.
Yeah. How old were you when you moved?
I was in middle school.
Okay.
Yeah, they took my cowboy boots my first day, and I went to school.
Right.
I came home on the bus with no shoes on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was tough. But I got out of there as quick as I could. But I started racing motorcycles, motocross,
Okay.
at Budds Creek in southern Maryland, and then I ended up racing motorcycles all over the country as a little kid. So anyway, so I was about to turn pro, and it was kind of one of those things. I never got hurt. I won a lot. I got a lot of seconds. I got a lot of thirds, but I just didn't want to get hurt.
Right.
And it was kind of getting to the point where the motorcycle crowd was not kind of my crowd at the time. And so I got home from a party one night and saw the stuff that was going down at the party, and I was like, man, this is not me. So
Right.
I woke my mother up and I said, hey, I'm going to Texas A&M tomorrow morning. So I loaded up my van. I had my name on the side of my van and full of motorcycles, hair down my back and all that kind of stuff. And went to Texas A&M, like the most conservative college in America,
Right.
for sure. And my two brothers were going to school there, so I went to Texas A&M and got in the building construction program, building construction, civil engineering, and I was there 4 years, and I started roofing houses, building houses, going to school. Met my wife Tori, she's from Laredo, and she had graduated a year before I did, and so we got married. A couple months after we got married, boom, wasn't supposed to have kids, and all of a sudden,
here it is.
she's
Yeah.
got kids coming. So I hadn't graduated yet. So, I was forced. I had no insurance, anything like that, and I had a framing crew, and the money was kind of like hit or miss,
Yeah.
And so.
Well, you were still going to school at this time too, right?
Yeah, I was still in college.
Yeah.
A&M, and so I took a job in Manhattan in Houston, and in Houston, I mean, there were tower cranes everywhere. I mean, there was so much construction going on, and so I was just thrown into the big time multi-story, 30, 40-story buildings, working for Manhattan.
Yeah.
And, I started at the very bottom as a field engineer and, learned to do, formwork and operate cranes. And so, I knew how to do it all. And then I came up to Oklahoma, I learned to estimate, and I had all these guys working for me. And I came to Oklahoma, and we had like maybe one job in Tulsa, one in Oklahoma City. And then when I left Manhattan, we were pretty much, our biggest competitor was Flintco, who's a 100-year-old company just like Manhattan was. But we pretty much had 50-50.
Yeah.
We had a lot of Indian casinos, lots of healthcare, lots of, like we did the BOK Center, I joint ventured with Flintco on that. And so, yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. But my family business just got so big, and mainly it started with this hotel. And I can kind of tell you that story if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
So I came
So before you get into family businesses, hotels then?
Our family business, we buy old buildings.
Okay.
And historic buildings that we can get tax credits on.
Okay.
And, the more torn up and worthless the building is, the better it is. You don't want, I call it like a tweener building, where you don't want a building that was, like built in the 60s or 70s.
Right.
It has like 1980 stuff that's not energy efficient, it's not real reliable, but it's not ready to tear out. You want something that you can tear completely out.
Yeah.
And so that's what we do. And we have properties in Tulsa, Pawhuska. We have a 20-room boutique hotel in Pawhuska, right next to where they're filming the movie.
Yeah.
And then we have properties in Lubbock, Texas.
So when you went into construction at a young age then, after college, or you'd already kind of been generally around it with family and you kind of knew something about it already? It wasn't like you were jumping into a job that like you'd never seen or never heard about before?
Right.
Okay.
So I just told my son-in-law today, he's in the heating and air and plumbing business, and he's doing really well. And his name's Justin. I said, you know, Justin, when you know how to do this stuff, that's power.
Yeah.
And I mean, I knew what the cost was. I knew how to do it more efficiently. I knew how to buy the materials, where to buy the materials, and when to buy the material. And so you can, you know, most people are paying $150 a foot, $200 a foot. You know, we're doing our stuff for $100 a foot to $80 a foot. Not lately, though.
Not lately.
Because, I mean, what's happened with the material prices, I mean, it's just unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, an 8-foot 2x4 number 2 grade is $8.64 plus tax at Home Depot. And, you know, hell, in like November, it was like $3.50.
Yeah.
You know, maybe, you know, so it's, and then a sheet of 3/4 inch plywood is $75. It used to be like $26. So I don't really know where we're heading, you know, with the material prices.
Right.
I just wish I had about, you know, 10 truckloads full of 3/4 inch plywood sitting in my warehouse. But so we kind of hit the pause button on our development stuff with COVID, and you know, we were about ready to start getting going again. We have 10 acres over here in the interdispersal loop.
Okay.
That half of it's historic tax credit stuff, and we were building an apartment building called Mako Lofts, Mako after a German motocross bike. And then my motorcycle museum's over there, so I kind of have this whole, it's called Mayo Place.
Yeah.
And so it's called Live, Work, and Ride kind of thing. And but yeah, that's we just kind of see how things go. You know, don't want to overpay you know, for material and things like that. But
and in no rush too.
And there's a lot of developers like me that are, you know, kind of on the sidelines, just kind of waiting.
Yeah.
But I finished up all my projects. I had my one little Mako Lofts. Maybe I was probably 20% started on it. I didn't have my loan yet and all that kind of stuff. So the clock wasn't ticking. So it was easy to, you know, shut that down.
Yeah. So then you're up here, and this hotel comes on the market. Like, tell me.
Okay, when I moved up here, I was a girls soccer coach in Houston. I have 3 daughters, and Macy, Kellner, and Shelby, and I was a girls soccer coach, and we, you know, played soccer all over Texas and Louisiana and Oklahoma a little bit. Played in softball also, girls softball. And so I came up here, and you know, Tulsa's easy. You know, you can, you know, like if you're living in Houston, you know, it takes you like, you know, depending on where you're working at, you know, it takes you maybe an hour and a half. Sometimes I was working in Galveston, it'd take me an hour to get there and an hour and a half to get back. And so, you know, but in Oklahoma, in Tulsa, you know, you can get off at 5 and you can be at your kid's soccer game at 5:30 or 6 o'clock. And so I was coaching a girls soccer team, and I had a girl on my team, and her last name was Robson, and her dad is from Claremore, and her dad's father loaned Sam Walton the money to start Walmart with, the Robson family. And so one day we were driving from Claremore back. I was taking her home after a soccer game, and she points, we're driving just right on the IDL, and she points at this sign, and she goes, "My dad owns that building." And it said Mayo on it, and didn't know what Mayo was.
Yeah.
But so I was at a game, soccer game one time with Bruce, and Bruce said, I said, "Hey Bruce, you own a building downtown?" He goes, "Yeah, man." He goes, "I'm embarrassed to own that building." And he said, I hate that building." He goes, "Everybody laughs at me," and you know, he's trying to develop it, and you know, it's kind of hard if you're, you know, you really don't have a lot of experience doing construction and development, and he didn't have it. And so anyway, so I kind of helped him, and I'd come over and, you know, run the homeless guys out of here and kind of, you know, just sort of take care of it. I thought the building was cool. Big building, 300,000 square feet. And so we had a bond issue that came out when Susan Savage was mayor, and kind of like the Vision 2025 package that got passed in 2003. But this was in 2001, and so it was around April. And so we were, they were going to change everything, and they were going to, put these incentive packages out to developers. And so Bruce was hoping to get a little bit of money on that. And so, they were going to build an auditorium and all kinds of things that didn't make any sense. And so it didn't pass. And so we went to like a watch party at the Tulsa, at the Tulsa Club up here. And so didn't pass, and he's just like, screw this place, I'm leaving, I'm moving to Florida, I don't want to go to another party and have people laugh at me anymore. And so I'm talking to him, and so we walk over to the elevator, and I push the button to go down, and he goes, you got $1? And I kind of looked at him, and he goes, Dad, you got $1? I said, yeah, I got $1. He said, you just bought the Mayo Hotel for $1. And I said, Bruce, you're drunk, man. He goes, I'm not drunk.
Yeah.
I'm bringing you the damn keys tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, okay, whatever, man. I said, do you need me to drive for you? He goes, no, man, I'm not drunk.
Yeah.
So 8 o'clock, I'm over here at 5th and Boulder. I used to office in this 111 building right next door. And he calls me and goes, I'm bringing the keys over.
Yeah.
I said, are you serious? He goes, yeah. He goes, you bought it. And I said, well, can I have that parking lot to the north of it? And he goes, you got to buy that.
Yeah.
And I said, well, how much? He goes, $250,000. I said, okay. And I said, hey, I work for somebody else. I don't have a,
right.
hell of a lot of money. And I said, is there any way we can close at the end of the year? And this is April. He said, yeah, no problem. But he goes, you need to take it right now.
Yeah.
So as of this morning, that's yours, and you handle it. I don't want to hear anything else. So I had the keys and had the building. And so, yeah, but Tulsa was, you wouldn't even walk around here at night.
Right.
I mean, it was really dangerous and nothing going on, just people would come here to go to work during the day, and then they were gone. 5 o'clock, the place just kind of rolled up, But it's different now. We were really and truly, we were pretty much the first. It was my wife and I and my family with the Mayo. It was Michael Sager at the Blue Dome, and then Elliot Nelson just graduated from Notre Dame, and he actually was leasing that building that McNally's is in. And I mean, Elliot, I'd had meetings with Michael Sager and Elliot. Elliot would be covered in mud. He would be down in ditches digging and stuff. So, he really worked hard to get where he is, and I have a lot of respect for him. And so it was really just us, and nobody else was throwing down their own money. The city, wasn't really doing anything. And so,
what year was this?
That was 2001, 2002. Okay. Yeah. And so I came up with a plan to park cars in the basement. And so I cut a couple ramps in there and made some other ramps, and so we could generate some money. And then my daughter Macy graduated from OU, and then we went ahead and added bathrooms on the first floor, and then we just set up that whole lobby area in this mezzanine for events, and then we would just rent it, a couple $1,000 for an event, and then they bring their own, food, their own caterers and stuff like that. We would rent tables and chairs, and so we were able to eke out, a little bit just to pay the bills and things like that. And Macy, she ran the whole thing. She still runs everything. Yeah. She runs the Mayo, the Aloft Hotel. We own the Aloft Hotel with 3 partners, and then we own the Frontier Hotel in Pawhuska. Okay. With Del Forrest and Bob Jack. Yeah. And so she runs all that. And then in 2003, we had Vision 2025 under Bill of Fortune and Bob Dick, our county commissioner. And it was, I went out and stumped with them and went to manufacturing plants and American Airlines and, pushing the deal. It was the only, it's what saved Tulsa. Yeah. And we're, reaping the benefits of it right now. But it was, it gave a little bit to everybody. OU got some money, OSU got some money, NSU got some money. And then they put out, I think it was $15 million of seed money to developers to build apartments. And so we competed for that, and we got $4.8 million. It was a zero-interest loan for 10 years that we paid back in 10 years. And that's kind of what kind of jump-started it. So without the help of the city of Tulsa, we really couldn't have done it. And so, we owe a lot of gratitude to the citizens of Tulsa and Build a Fortune and people like that. We paid our money back, and then we have other apartment buildings that we also competed and got money, like on the old YMCA. It's a 82-unit apartment building. It's called Y Lofts. Detroit Lofts over here by the ballpark, which we did and we sold. And then the Vandiver building was 40 units over here at 5th and Main, and we sold that.
Yeah.
So it's been good.
So
it's been good for not just us, but for a lot of people.
Well, yeah, you're right. Collectively, it seems really kind of changed in the last 20 years, changed the city. So you get the keys to this place. What do you know about the building when you get the keys, other than it's historic and?
So I walk in, and that beautiful grand hall that you see, that big 2-story atrium deal with the stained glass, was wide open, and there was a bonfire there. And there was probably 30 or 40 homeless people in here. Yeah. And so instead of walking around with a gun and intimidating everybody, I just walked around with cigarettes and would give them a pack of Marlboros and ask them to leave. And, they'd leave, and I finally got them out, and then I barricaded up all the windows, welded rebar where the windows were, busted open. But we had problems where the terracotta was falling off the building. I mean, it was a big liability. I mean, most people would not have, even for nothing, it was just too much to handle. Yeah. And it's a 22-story building. It's kind of like eating an elephant, man. It's right. Even I don't get overwhelmed that easily. But 10, 15 years ago, I damn sure didn't. But it was overwhelming. But we, I actually, what happened was I was going to do a condo job at Shangri-La, but before Eddie Gibbs bought Shangri-La with a guy named Pete Boylan. And I met a guy named Drake Leddy from San Antonio, who was a developer that I did some stuff with in Dallas. And Drake was in the middle of doing the President Hotel, which is a lot like in Kansas City, which is a lot like the Mayo. So I'm in a meeting in San Antonio in his office, and I look over on the wall. I go, "Damn, that looks like my hotel." He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "I got a hotel just like that." He said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, the Mayo." So we kind of started talking, and it was eligible for tax credits, and so we brought Drake in as a partner, and so my wife and I partnered up with Drake, 50-50 on everything. We just split the baby, and it worked out great, and we borrowed money with IBC Bank out of Laredo, who's been our bank going on 20 plus years now. They've done all of our development stuff, and so with that, and we sold our federal tax credits to Chevron through Drake, Drake and his guys, and used a big-time tax credit lawyer named Mike Markinson out of St. Louis, who's still a good buddy of mine, and they put the whole thing together, and we sold the state tax credits to Chevron, and then we sold the federal tax credit to Chevron, and the state tax credits we sold to basically a syndicate of insurance companies and stuff like that. It's a transferable credit. Yeah. And so when you put all those pieces together, we borrowed $23.5 million. We had 4.8. We had, 8 from Chevron. We had 7 something from the state credits. You put it all together, and it's like $42 million. So that's how, not quite 42, but pretty close. That, yeah. So that's what it costs to do it all. Yeah. But it's it's not easy, I mean, we opened September of 2009 to Britney Spears, 60 rooms. We weren't completely done. Right. But we have 76 apartments here, 102 hotel rooms, rooftop bar, big, beautiful ballroom for weddings and things like that. And then a restaurant, which we haven't reopened yet, and a really, really nice coffee shop, Starbucks. So we proudly serve coffee shop. Yeah. And so anyway, it was a little difficult. It's like, and I've seen it before. Because I was with Manhattan Construction for 30 years. And we would build these big, huge buildings for people. And we did all the WorldCom work with Bernie Ebbers, and it's just kind of this it's this love fest, and building the building and the colors and how it's going to look and changing this, and all the interior designers and the architects and all that stuff. But then when you open, it's like everybody's gone. They're paid, and you got to start making money. Right. That's the hard part. And so my partner out of San Antonio, who I love to death, Drake, he's a great guy. But they just, they ran the hotel, and we just couldn't, it just wasn't making money. I mean, my wife and I were having to reach into our pockets and bail it out. And they had, they had 120 people wandering around this hotel, and it just was, I was like pulling my hair out. And so in March of 2011, we just said, hey, you're fired, And so Drake stayed on board, and then Macy and my wife was an attorney here in Tulsa, and she had to quit her law practice. And she came over here every day with Macy, and we pulled it out.
Yeah.
I mean, Macy had a $200,000 2-day New Year's Eve wedding in 2011 that just saved us. So,
wow.
Yeah, and we haven't turned back yet. So without her, I mean, the place doesn't really.
Yeah,
operate.
Not her wedding. It was someone she got in to, right?
What's that?
For people listening, it wasn't her wedding that was that day.
It wasn't her wedding.
She gone out and got that wedding
hell, I
to
couldn't
come
afford
in.
to pay $200,000
No, I know. That's
I'm
just like clearing up for people listening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But I mean, all three of my daughters have been married here. But yeah, and I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, it was a 2-day deal. They took the whole hotel, and
amazing.
They had cigar rollers from Cuba here, and all kinds of big time DJs from Los Angeles, and I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean. And so I mean that kind of got us out of that, but my daughter Macy has turned this into it's the #1 wedding venue in Tulsa, and we have a lot of people from California and New York and places like that their son or their daughter ends up marrying somebody from Tulsa, and they even some guys from California and New York, instead of getting married there, they get married here, or it just so it's pretty cool. And we used to have every Friday and Saturday for several years, we would have over 1,000 people in this building. So you take the people staying in the hotel rooms, the people having parties in their apartments, and then people in the restaurant, the coffee shop, and then the penthouse bar.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty adult place. There's 1,000 people, I'd say probably maybe 990, have a drink in their hand. So, it gets, it's kind of like.
Just its own, it's got its own.
You got to sort of corral it,
Yeah.
You don't want to mandate how things work, but you just kind of guide it, and then get them all done and get them out of here or in their hotel rooms and that kind of thing. But it was rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
Until the war happened,
Right.
And then it, like everybody else, but we held on to it, and, we cut back. And so, but things are coming back, but sometimes we would have, one time we had 3 500-person sit-down dinners here in one night. 3.
Yeah.
We flip rooms, and I mean, there was that much demand. But we would have, at least a wedding every Friday and Saturday, every weekend of the year. Even in the bad months like January, February, and August. But it's starting to come back. Yeah.
There's so many lessons in everything you just said in the last kind of 25 minutes we've been talking about. Just just taking on challenges, like working at it. Like your wife coming in and getting involved, Macy's getting involved. Like there's a reason, right, that you clearly love what you do, and you keep doing what you do. And there's like, giving up is not a word that is in your dictionary at all, is it? There's always ways to work at things, and it.
Yeah, what I do is, I might like give up, when things kind of go bad one day, But my mother always told me, just go home, go to sleep, and wake up early, and it'll be a whole new day. And that's really how you deal with it, because not every day is good. But it's funny. You just kind of put your head down, and things get better, But I got a lot of support, a lot of family support. But I couldn't do this if I wasn't in Oklahoma. I'm not smart enough or well capitalized enough to, operate in like Houston or Dallas or New York or Los Angeles. But in Oklahoma, I'm able to, we know a lot of people here, a lot of vendors, a lot of subcontractors, and you know, a lot of people with the city and inspectors and fire marshals, and you know, we're really big with the Tulsa Police Department, and that's helpful. You know, we do a lot of things for them, and they do a lot of stuff for us.
Yeah.
But in the big cities, there's no way. But it's if I tell everybody, if I was still in Houston, I'd still be in downtown Houston backing up concrete trucks. Yeah. You know, but Oklahoma changed everything.
Yeah, same for me. Like in general, the States has so much opportunity, but when you come to Oklahoma, I mean, you can do anything, right?
You can do anything.
You work hard at it,
yeah.
You will make a business out of it.
Oh yeah,
I love it. Like
there's so much opportunity here. I mean, it's like my buddy I told you about, Eddie Gibbs, the guy. So if you want to hear it, it's
about Grand Lake, right?
It is a killer story.
Yeah.
Okay, so Eddie Gibbs, I'll be 64 in November. Eddie will be 74 in November. And Eddie grew up on a dirt floor in Chakotah, Oklahoma. I mean, with nothing, nothing. You know, mom, I think they were on welfare and those kind of things. And Eddie went around and he would put like a tag on a piece of string on everybody's doorknob and said, "My name's Eddie Gibbs. This is where I live. If you need any trash thrown away or need your yard mowed, can you let me know?" And that's how. And he kind of supported his brothers and sisters and his mom. And so he started building fences. And so he started this company called Ameristar Fence in Owasso. And he has a patent. And one day I was at Shangri-La with him, and he sold his company for $500+ million to Assa Abloy out of Sweden. And so we're driving, looking at the golf course and stuff, and Eddie goes, "Hey John, you want me to show you how I made $500 million?" And I said, "Yeah." So he walks up, we walk to a fence panel, and he invented. They would roll, so you got pickets in a fence, and then you have the top rail and the bottom rail, and then you got the big posts like that.
Yeah.
And then he would roll the top rail, and he would shear 3 sides of it, and then fold it down with the machine, and then tack weld it to the picket. And he patented that.
Oh, wow.
And then he ended up, getting to Salesforce, and they, when 9/11 hit, they designed all the, security fencing that kind of arches over that you see around all the federal installations and stuff. And then he was sending stuff, to the Port of Catoosa and put it in Connex boxes, and it was going to Saudi Arabia and all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, he's a pretty amazing guy.
Wow.
You would never, ever, know just by looking at him, but he's just a good dude.
Yeah.
And then what he's done at Shangri-La, which I was telling you earlier, I mean, it's a total gift to Oklahoma. And if you haven't been there, you need to go there. I mean, it is it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So over the top. But yeah, that guy, and he's not done yet. I mean, we talked earlier, he's going to build a Tiger Woods Par 3.
Yeah. And
I just opened up a $14 million activity center that's open to the public. So it's
thankful that he likes golf. I'm thankful he likes golf.
Well, it's funny. He likes golf, but his shoulders are gone from digging fence posts like that. With a post hole digger.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many stories like that. Ditch Witch, out of where are they from? South of Stillwater. I mean, that just all these stories, Boone Pickens and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a great place.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, like I said, you raised your family here. You and your wife are still here. You got 3 kids, and like I said, 9.5 grandchildren. Tell me about kind of obviously we're close to the BOK. Tulsa's more of a music town than Oklahoma City is. I don't think people in Oklahoma City like that, but it's true. People seem to stay here.
So let me tell you the story about the BOK Center. So I went to the CEO of Flintco one day, and I brought a real expensive bottle of wine for him. And I brought it, and I sat it on his desk. His name was Tom Maxwell. And I said, "Hey, Tom, what is 100% of zero?" He said, 0. And I said, "What is 50% of 1?" He said, 50%. I said, "Right. We need a joint venture and go after the BOK Center because there were all kinds of huge construction companies, Turner and Austin Commercial out of Dallas, all these big companies, big mega arena, football stadium builders that were vying for it. I mean, we could have lost it, so we joint ventured on it. So we ended up interviewing for it, and we got it. And then my brother Jim, his firm built, arenas and things like that, and so they wanted to, get involved, and so I introduced them, some people, and they said, well, who's the most, connected architect in Tulsa? And I said, it's Steve Alter with Matrix Architects. And he goes, where's their office? I said, just right up here. So I dropped them off, and they met each other, and then boom, it was like they were off to the races. Yeah. And so then they had this star architect kind of thing, anybody can kind of build an arena, but the way it looks and feels and all that kind of stuff. And so my brother knew Caesar Pelli because he did a big building with him. And so he got Caesar Pelli on his team. Yeah. And then HOK Sport out of Kansas City got a guy named Peter Eisenman on their team. And then I guess Peter Eisenman, while they were competing and getting everything together, Peter Eisenman had a seminar or something. He was a guest speaker in New York University or something like that, and they were talking about something kind of like what we're doing today. And they were saying, well, what projects are you working on? He goes, I got this project in Tulsa. They ought to just blow that place up. And the word got out, and so when they had the interview, when Caesar Pelli and my brother's team did their interview, and then HOK Sport had Peter Reisman did their interview, our head county commissioner at the time, Bob Dick, who pretty damn good dude, and he goes, Mr. Eisman, tell me about why do you want to blow my city up? I was born and raised here, and I plan on dying here, and we're trying to change this place. And he's like that. So anyway, they ended up not getting it. Right. And then Peter Eisman was gone with them, and then Caesar Pelli is the reason why that arena looks like it does. And so if you go to the Oklahoma City arena, it's like a lot of arenas. You go up, and up. Yeah. It's flat. Right. So that is built on a hill, so it's split level. So you go in and you go down to the playing floor, and then it's
that bowl feeling.
Another another level up like that. So it's kind of a split level. So it's kind of a boutique looking deal, and then he puts a sweeping glass on it, and it's in stainless steel. I mean, it's a building that it's a timeless building. It'll be there forever. So we're in these rooms and kind of trying to decide with the some city councilors and the mayor and the arts directors and the architects and Caesar Pelli and the Flintco guys and I. And so what we decided to do was to make it a music venue that accommodated basketball. Right. And that's what it is. I mean, it is all about, Yeah. It's a music venue. And I was telling you earlier, I mean, a lot of groups, they come here just to practice. And we had Pink Floyd here for a whole summer staying at this hotel. Yeah. And they were getting ready for their world tour. And, it was, people like to play there. And so, we're close by. We got a lot to offer here, and there's a lot of stuff here. I mean, pretty much every dead president stayed here. Elvis stayed here twice, and Michael Jackson stayed here when it was Jackson 5, and James Brown, and it was just Aretha Franklin. I mean, you just keep on going. So they like to stay here, and we've had pretty much every famous group except for Adele and the Rolling Stones stay at this hotel. Yeah. And they come here because nobody bothers them. Everything's pretty chill, and our employees, they don't try to get a guitar signed or anything like that. They just act like they're not here, and so that's the cool thing about it.
That's so awesome, isn't it? Well, what about your personal love of music? Kind of, what's your kind of go-to music that you listen to? And I mean, I'm sure you've had people come through here and you're like, man, I got to meet this person.
No, I'm not quite like that. But I mean, I'm a diehard U2 fan. I used to rock climb, technical rock climbing, and we in the '90s. And U2 was really hot back then, and so U2 stayed here for 5 days, and I got to meet Bono and
Yeah.
took him to his room and spent some time with him and some of the other guys, and that was like meeting Elvis
Right.
in my, and I mean my favorite song is Every Breaking Wave, man. I mean that's just an unbelievable song. So, but yeah, I mean I listen to progressive country stuff,
Yeah. You before we started recording, you mentioned that you were getting back into motocross stuff. Tell me about that.
So I started racing motocross when I was about 8.
Yeah.
And raced all over the United States, California, Florida, Maryland, Texas, and Ohio, and stuff like that. And before I was about to go pro, and I was telling you before,
I went to university.
I never got hurt, and I just, man, I decided to go ahead and go to college, and so I went to Texas A&M, and told you about that.
Yeah.
And when you're have a big job like I had at Manhattan Construction Company, and wife and kids and private school, and bills, and mortgage and all that kind of stuff, car payment, and you can't not go to work, and
Right.
it's kind of hard to race on Sunday. Invariably you're going to get kind of hurt. So I quit racing, and I quit racing for like 40 years. 35, maybe something like that. And anyway, I started collecting vintage motorcycles, motocross bikes. And so I went to a guy that I bought a bike from Houston, went to a race in Okmulgee. And he goes, hey, do you want to come to this vintage motocross race in Okmulgee? And I said, well, I don't have a bike, or I don't have a helmet. He goes, oh, just come on down. So I drive down there, and I got flip-flops and shorts and a T-shirt. And he put me on a 1973 CZ Czechoslovakian 400, and borrowed his helmet, leathers, boots, and all that stuff, and I got third. It's kind of when you still, it's kind of hard to lose it if you, relatively healthy and all that kind of stuff. And so the guy running the race, I didn't know him ever, and I can't believe I didn't know him, but he was the first United States 2-time world motocross champion. His name was Trampus Barker.
Okay.
And he lived in Italy for 20 years, married an Italian lady, ended up getting divorced and had 2 sons with her. And he won 2 world championships, one in 1989 on a KTM and one in 1991 on a Honda T50. And he's kind of like Bono in Italy.
Right.
He's really, really famous. But he married Troy Aikman's high school girlfriend.
Oh.
Out of Henrietta,
Yeah.
and her name is Sherry Parker. She's awesome. And so anyway, I met him, and he was putting on the race, and so I got to know him, and my family got to know him, and we were always doing stuff with him, and I started racing with him, and so yeah, that's what I do, and I go to a lot of races. I race on a team with him, and we have this thing. We have a big national championship every year in Henrietta at Nichols Park. It's the first weekend of November. And last year we had about maybe almost 700 riders, maybe 1,000, 1,500 spectators. And we have this thing called the Oki Challenge. So it's 150 years combined age.
Okay.
And you share a bike. And it can either be a Honda XR200 or a Yamaha 1983 Yamaha YZ100. So they're like evenly matched, not super fast, so everybody's kind of like everybody's got a bicycle,
Yeah.
And so you can have a pro, an expert, or an intermediate, and but the combined age has to be 150 years.
Right. Or more, or just
or more,
or more,
but it can't be less than 150 years.
Yeah.
And we had 29 teams from all over.
That's amazing.
I wouldn't say all over the world, but we had teams from Canada, and California, New York, Michigan, Florida, Texas, and it's super damn competitive. And so, year before last we won, and this year we got second.
Yeah.
And Trampus didn't really want to, he told me, he goes, because we were racing in a Honda XR200 when we won, and we won pretty handily. And then he goes, I want to change to a Yamaha YZ100, which is a 2-stroke, a little harder to ride. I'm a little bigger, than you really need to be, and so we got second. But he doesn't want to win all the time.
No,
he wins.
Right, sure.
He's still, Travis Parker's still the fastest 50-year-old in the world. I mean, he is unbelievably fast.
Crazy.
And he lives right here in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And I mean the talent of motocross racers that we have in Oklahoma is just unbelievable.
Right.
We got Trey Kennard lives here. He was an ex-Supercross champion. Robbie Rayner was an ex-Supercross champion. We got Justin Bogle out of Muskogee. I think he just got like third at Millville in Minnesota yesterday in the 250 class, and then we got Guy Cooper out of Stillwater, who's like, he's almost as popular as Travis Barker.
And no one here outside of motocross knows, right? Like, unless you're in the industry or you're in there, you love it, you follow it, you have no idea.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and we have a lot of motocross tracks in Oklahoma, and a lot of them around Tulsa. But it's a great. I mean, motocross is like, if you're, say you're a single mom and you have a son, maybe it's a great, great thing for maybe he's not like a team sports player.
Sure.
It's perfect to get into motorcycle racing, kind of like golf, I guess. That's not really.
It's individual sport, right? Yeah. And it's all down to you.
It's a great, thing to share with your dad, stuff like that. And it's if you don't get hurt, that's the problem. Is the modern motocross bikes now? There's probably only like 1% of every young kid in America that can even ride one.
Right.
But everybody's, people are getting those things and they get hurt like the first day they're on the damn thing. You get on a Honda 2021 Honda, 450, works bike, and you think you can, clear the double jumps and stuff like that. And,
trouble.
All you need is just happen one time and you hurt your neck and your life's done. So that's a little scary. That's why I kind of push vintage racing, because it's not that the jumps aren't as extreme and the bikes are older, so they don't go as fast. The suspension isn't, as long travel as the new bikes. And so we're bringing a lot more young people into vintage motorcycle racing. And, we'll have a vintage motocross race, and, sometimes some people get hurt, not very bad, but sometimes nobody gets hurt, and you go to these, supercross races and these outdoor nationals. I mean, the ambulance is pretty damn busy, during the day. So, but anyway, Oklahoma is, it's a hotbed for, motocross racing. Yeah. There's a lot of talented people here and a lot of people coming up.
Right. Last thing, tell me about the T-shirt that you're wearing.
Oh, that's my buddy.
Yeah.
So I can tell everybody. So you ever heard of Danny Boy O'Connor?
I have, yeah. I've been wanting to have him on the podcast.
Yeah, well, Danny Boy O'Connor was the frontman for House of Pain,
which is one of the most timeless, greatest songs ever.
That jump song.
Oh yeah.
And I never even knew who the hell.
Same.
So I saw this big old tall guy walking from the garage, and I thought he was a, homeless guy or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, who the hell is that? I asked my daughter, and she goes, "That's Danny Boy O'Connor." I said, "Well, who the hell's Danny Boy O'Connor?"
Yeah.
"Oh, he bought the Outsiders house." And I said, "Well, I remember I used to have to read that Outsiders book when I was in middle school." And so anyway, I got to meet him. Well, he lives here.
At the hotel?
Yeah, he lives here.
Okay.
Yeah. And so he comes. He was at our last podcast. I had my motorcycles all in the lobby and all that kind of stuff. It was pretty damn cool, called Moto Live. But yeah, he lives here, and he's a good dude.
Yeah.
And he loves Tulsa. And so he has a museum there. And then he did a podcast with my Moto Live guy about 3 weeks ago. Talked about his whole life story, his coming from New York, living in Los Angeles, and struggling with, drugs and things like that, and how he got through it all. And so just a good guy. But he's promoting Tulsa almost as hard as I am.
Yeah.
Probably harder. But he's a good dude, and he lives here, and he likes motorcycles.
That's awesome to have that connection and have him stay at the hotel.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, that's but
I'm gonna get him to some of these motorcycle races, but he's so damn big. I mean, you probably won't even see the motorcycle, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But things are going good.
Good. So for everyone listening, they can go to the website, go to the links, go to the social media pages, which I'll post in the description. You can check that out if you don't already know about this awesome hotel. Do people come and look at the museum and stuff? How do people come and see the museum? So
most of the time, the museum is open. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff here. We have a Race Riot exhibit here, the original newspaper the day after Race Riot, and that's the original martial law poster. At the Race Riot Museum, they have a copy, but that's the original one. But I've donated that to the John Hope Franklin Museum through my buddy Julius McGee's. But there's quite a bit of that stuff here. But all this is original stuff, original signed stuff. So let me tell you one more thing that we did. So we have motorcycles in the in the hotel, and then we have a motorcycle. It's the only free motorcycle museum open 24/7 to the public. It's in the glass box in my parking garage, and so we have a bunch of older, like we have a Steve McQueen Triumph Desert Sled and all kinds of cool stuff, and then we have motorcycles in the coffee shop, and then my wife just gave me approval today to start hanging motorcycles from the ceiling of the coffee shop, provided they don't leak oil on it. So I think I can probably hang. That'd be cool, man.
That would be cool.
Walk in there and see 10 motorcycles hang from the ceiling.
That'd be awesome.
And I've got a Tyran. It's a British bike. I mean, it's some super cool stuff.
Yeah.
So I had. I'll tell you one last thing. Mm-hmm. So 2 years ago, we had a Super Hooligan Street Flat Track National Championship on my 10 acres downtown.
Okay.
With all 1,200 cc bikes, and we had like Indians and Harley Davidsons and Ducatis, Triumphs and KTMs and stuff like that, and we had 3,500 people there. We had Ronnie Mack was there, he's pretty famous. Some of you have heard of him, but he's something else.
Big time, yeah.
Yeah, he's big time. But yeah, it was really cool, and we had 3,500 people, 1 day deal. So that's called Mayo Moto Street Classics. So if you want to look that up, there's a really cool video about that with a local North Tulsa musician. And so
it's awesome to kind of like interweb your kind of passions, right? You love motorcycles and you're like happy to have them at the hotel, and like it's something that's been a part of your life since you've grown up, right? It's cool to really still have that. There's a lot of people who grew up, they did sports. They, for whatever reason, like you said, you stepped away for so long because you had a family and you had priorities.
Right.
But it's really cool to still have it back and kind of be in the position to still love it, especially the historic stuff, and have a museum and have it open to the public and kind of just give back to a city that you never grew up, never like were born and raised in, but you've fallen in love with.
Right.
And
So what we're trying to do, and Danny's a big part of it too. I mean, we're trying to bring the cool factor. Mm-hmm. Not that Tulsa's not cool, but I mean, there's, there's the West Coast, the whole California motorcycle scene is pretty cool, you know, and so that's what we brought with our Mayo Moto Street Classic. It was all a Cali deal, and it was, you see the video, man, it was pretty cool. But it was the opening of my museum. I have a big museum over here at my 10 acres, and it's called the Mayo Moto Museum. And I have, my wife's not in here, so she'll probably see this, but she kind of saw it the other day. She got kind of upset about it, but I have about 300 motorcycles over there. Yeah. And I kind of slowed down. But I buy those vintage motorcycles, and I have road race bikes and flat track bikes, motocross bikes, all that kind of stuff. And it's an investment. It's like a 401k. Right. And it's amazing how much these things are bringing. I mean, we had an auction at Mecum in Las Vegas 2 months ago. And I got some bikes that I paid like $2,000 for. Mm-hmm. I mean, I got a CZ 125. It sold for $14,000. It looks just like the one I've got. Yeah. And I bought that maybe 6 years ago. So, it's not like impulse buy type stuff. I mean, it's a business thing. Yeah. But the longer they sit over there, not all of them, but most of them. The more the prices go up. Plus, they're cool, and but I used to be open to the public every Saturday, and I got broken into a little over a year ago. Mm-hmm. So it kind of like let the steam out, about it. But it takes a lot to have it all open. But eventually I'll have it open to the public, and we're right on Route 66 almost, and. Right. And there's a lot of people that do the Route 66 thing and stop, over here and look at the motorcycles. But
well, and also like what Tulsa and kind of Lieutenant Governor Pennell's pushing, with the whole Route 66 travel, and you got Mary Beth over it doing with the Muffler Man, and just that whole scene. Like it's in the passport that the Pennell's put out, and. You're right. There's so many things coming together, and why not make the museum part of it, right? There's a reason that it's people are going to be coming through. People most of the time ride Route 66 on motorcycles.
That's right.
Why not?
Paul McCartney, like 8 years ago maybe, he flew into Chicago and rented a Ford Bronco. Really? Like a vintage one. I don't know how he rented it, and he drove Route 66. Yeah. He didn't stay at the hotel here. But when he was married to that one lady, they drove, through here, down Albuquerque, I-40 and that kind of stuff. So
it's cool.
But, I mean, since now, people are cooped up and now everybody's, they're traveling. And there's a lot of cool stuff to see. Route 66 used to go, it was basically 11th Street. 66 went down 11th Street. But before that, it came in over here at the Blue Dome.
Okay.
And it came in and it turned up on Elgin. And then it came all the way up and it took a right on 6th Street. So it kind of came right almost in front of the Mayo. And then it dog-legged and went across the bridge. But yeah, a lot of nostalgia here, man.
There's so much to talk about, so much to take in, and I know we didn't get to everything, but I really appreciate you taking the time to share some stories. Really appreciate your love for this city and this state and Grand Lake as well, and just kind of the people that you've met here, and clearly you've bonded with a lot of them, and just all the people that fell in place to get the grants, right, and to make things happen, and the willingness to make things happen collectively. And when you get people like that in the room, it's intoxicating, isn't it? And why not? Why can't we do this, right? You get that mentality of, with enough hard work, and we can make things happen.
That's right.
And it's really cool to see that.
And I coach a lot of young entrepreneurs like yourself too, and they kind of ask me, how'd you do it? And I don't have any secrets, just kind of tell them how to put it together. But, I tell everybody, these young guys come to me and they go, I'm going to go buy a big house or something. I said, well, why don't you go buy an old warehouse in some little podunk town in Oklahoma? Yeah. We bought that Triangle building in Pawhuska 16 years ago for $13. It's a 5-story. Yeah, no kidding. I swear. Wow, yeah. They were going to tear it down. You know? And so now it's it's a 20-room boutique hotel, and it's full every night. Yeah. Even tonight, it's probably got 19 rooms, but consistently 20 rooms. And then, Ree Drummond opened across the street. Oh, yeah. And then after we owned it, I knew Ree, before she was kind of Ree Drummond, Right. And then she opened her mercantile, and, that place was dead, man. Dead. Yeah. Dead. Mm-hmm. And now it's unbelievable. Right. And then you got the movie thing going on. Let me tell you, I think it's, it's kind of coming together. And like you said, Matt Pinnell, he's a go-getter, and he's got some good ideas, and he's bringing that cool factor in.
Yeah, no doubt. I interviewed someone actually called Old West Buffalo that moved from Colorado. They had a buffalo herd in Colorado, and they moved to Pawhuska to continue building their herd, because their whole thing is talking about the buffalo and where it started, and it pretty much started in Pawhuska and around that area. So he was on the podcast a couple of weeks ago telling me the whole story, and they didn't even realize they accidentally drove through Pawhuska and they didn't realize where they were, and they're like, this place is perfect. And then they see a for sale sign and buy 100 acres. And they were from Colorado originally. So there's so many stories like that.
Yeah, right? And what they'll probably do, I don't know this for sure, but I would think they are. My artist in residence guy, Morgan, I got him a job, and he's over there working for Apple Studios, doing all their street signs and all the interior
right,
background stuff and all that kind of stuff, and they're probably going to leave that whole movie set there, when they get finished.
Yeah, why not, right?
And then now it's going to be kind of like going to Hollywood. Yeah. Sort of,
You're just going to take all that mud out the way of Main Street and take all that on.
Yeah, they definitely take that crazy out. But have you read that book, Killers of the Flower Moon?
I need to. I'm going to read it before I watch the movie.
Man.
Yeah.
3/4 of it is really good. The last part about the FBI. Yeah. But it's basically the history of Oklahoma, and there were some bad dudes, man. Yeah. This is basically where they warehoused everybody they didn't want. Right. And man, it's just unbelievable the bad stuff that they did. But it's a good book. Yeah, we're lucky to have it going on.
Definitely. Well, Nate, thank you so much for sharing. Like I said, I love what you've done here, and I love what you, Macy, and the family continue to do here, and obviously the amount of effort that you put into making Tulsa cool, or continuing to make Tulsa cool and make it cooler. I'm sure everyone else really appreciates it too. So
okay, well let me do a little shout out so I don't get in trouble.
Yeah.
But so my other daughter Shelby handles all of our apartments, and then my middle daughter Kellner has 4 kids, and then she helps us with everything too. So it's my
whole
wife
family.
Tori, my oldest daughter Macy, Kellner, and Shelby.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Okay.
man. I really appreciate it. For everyone listening, I'll post the links that we mentioned down in the description, and come and check out the Mayo, check out the museum, and check out the bike museum too when it's open. We'll catch you next episode. Cheers. This podcast is presented by the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, telling Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Always be on the know and on the go with RCB Bank's free text banking tool. With text banking, you can be alerted via text on every transaction 24 hours per day. Text banking with RCB Bank allows you to check your balances and transfer money anytime, anywhere. Text banking is quick, easy, safe, and customizable. Standard carrier fees for data and text and other transfer restrictions may apply. Funds may not settle immediately. RCB Bank, that's my bank. Member FDIC.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.